Hey, this is Dragonfeather, and I'm here to talk about kind of a rather serious topic. I'm here to tell you guys some tips on how to use Ouija boards correctly and safely. Not just use them, how to actually use them, what they're made for. Now, I've only used an Ouija board once, and I used it wrong, and it was disrespectful, and ever since then I was afraid to use them. However, I did a lot of research, and what I've learned from my research is that unless I have a serious reason to use an Ouija board, I will not resort to that. I haven't had the need to use one. I'm perfectly fine with my meditation as of right now, but I do have my notes to help you guys with certain things that you should do. And my first guidance tip or whatever is ask yourself, do I really need to use an Ouija board? Am I just doing this for fun? Am I just doing this to experiment, to joke around? Am I doing this for the real reason, or am I doing this because I really need help on certain things? Okay, so to start off, things that you're going to need or that I highly recommend you have, and if you do not have, this is the only time I'm really going to be like, if you don't have it, please don't do it. But here we go. I'm going to recommend a white candle because white candle is for purity. And you can light this white candle. It can be a little mini tea light. If you only have a little mini tea light, I suggest getting maybe a few more. And use this and make these candles purity candles. And you can look up on the internet purity spells all over the place. And or you can make your own and cast purity spells on these, or write purification in, carve it into the candle wax and use those during your seance. Now I recommend purifying incense or smudge bundles. You can use sage, which is pretty popular to smudge things, but I also recommend dragon's blood incense because it is a very, very protective incense, and it's very calming and grounding. As in my personal practice, I prefer to use it when I work with darker magic. And I recommend salt to keep by you because salt is also a very purifying element, and it is a very good thing to have around you when you're working with certain spirits. And this is not beginning magic whatsoever. This is not for beginners, this is not for beginners, this is not for beginners. If you have not casted at least a dozen or 3 dozen spells, I strongly recommend you guys don't do this, even if you have 2 or more people. This is not, I don't know how many times I can stress this is not something you should do if you're not experienced. Even I don't feel like I'm experienced enough to work with this, and that's just how I feel, and that's why I want to learn more before I even try to attempt a real seance. But if you are experienced and if you are interested, I recommend having at least 2 or more people. It tends to work better that way. And it is a lot easier to protect yourself when you have more people. We are stronger in groups, and we see tons of examples of that in the animal kingdom. Make sure, if you have a group, only work with people who are serious and respectful. Because if people are not serious and respectful, then whatever spirits you may be working with could take offense to it and could cause you some serious issues and problems. My next really big thing is to be sober. Do not be under the influence of alcohol, any kind of drugs, prescription drugs, marijuana. Don't be under the influence of meth, cocaine. Don't do any of that. Even sleeping pills or Advil. Don't do any of that. Don't be under the influence of anything of that kind. Make sure you are completely sober, at least 24 hours without anything like that. And even if you have certain types of medical conditions. Now here, I'm not telling you guys to not take your pills, because if you need to take your pills, I am not a doctor. Do not stop taking those. That is not, don't listen to me. If you take your pills and you have to, take them. But if you have addictive tendencies, if you're highly anxious and highly nervous a lot, if you have psychosis or any other psychological disorders, do not use an Ouija board, because you are at a higher risk. Just like people who have immunodeficiency disorders, they're at higher risk for infection. This is the same thing. If you guys have psychological disorder, or anything like that, you're at a higher risk of being affected mentally through using an Ouija board. So some things, if you are bipolar, do not use it. If you have insomnia, do not use it. If you have schizophrenia, definitely do not use it. And those are just some precautions that I would like to tell you guys about. And the second thing, when you actually start doing your seance or whatever, if you're alone or not, what you're going to do is you're going to clear your mind. And I did a video on meditation and how to help you relax and clear your mind in a realistic manner. Not necessarily silent thoughts, just where you're relaxed and you're not thinking about what whoever wore. So you guys can check that out if you would like. So clear your mind, and when you're in the middle of it, never ask questions that pertain to your death or the death of a family member. And the reason why I say this is because if you talk about death to somebody who is dead, they could either get offended, they could become very interested in you, or they could ultimately try to mess with your life, and you don't want that at all. So about using an Ouija board, it's very, very particular. And this is, normally I'm like, do what fits you best, but no, using an Ouija board is very particular. You have to follow the rules or something bad could potentially happen. And I recommend when you use an Ouija board with 3 or more people to go at a table and to put it in the middle of the table so everyone can reach it, and keep your posture straight and do not cross your legs. Because when you cross your legs, it shows a more relaxed position. And when you're more in a relaxed position, not only do you seem less threatening and less, like, dominating, but you can also be more easily taken advantage of, if you guys know what I mean. And also, yeah, so don't cross your legs and keep your posture straight. And, also visually protect yourself. Actually, before I go into that, if you're working, because I didn't go over the other two, if you're working with just two people, both kneel on the ground and put the Ouija board on the top of both of your guys' knees and work with it that way. That helps the energy flow better, and make sure you keep your posture straight still, and make sure you can actually stay on your knees that long instead of going back into your, like, crisscross legs. Because if you were to do that, again, that shows relaxation and a little bit more easier to take advantage of, so to say. Also, you're going to visually protect yourself. If people cast circles, go ahead and cast your circle before. Call upon your spirit guides. If I were to do a seance, I would call on my spirit guides, and my spirit guide would be my spirit animal, which is a killer whale. And I always use killer whales as protection, no matter what I'm doing. And I also work with dragons to protect me, because I believe they're very fierce and very strong and scary. And so I use that to also protect me. You can call on the elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and spirit, and any angels if you guys work with angels, and your higher self. And your higher self is just your higher conscience, which is what we tap into when we meditate and use divination tools. Alright, so when you start, ask questions that require yes or no. Start out very, very easily, and don't ask like any crazy question that's gonna need right off the bat. And make sure you have you have a pen and a paper so you can write down what's being said, so you can interpret it later. So make sure you start out with easy questions. And the best time to do this is between 9 and 12 p.m. in the evening. 9 and 12 a.m., excuse me. So, like 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. A lot of people do this early in the morning, and though that's a really good time for spiritual activity, it tends to be more of a creepier spiritual activity for those of you who've had spiritual encounters. I'm sure you would agree. But the earlier you do it in the evening, the better chance you're going to have of contacting a better spirit, if you know what I mean. Now, if you're working in a group of 2 or more people, you're going to choose someone to be the person who asks the questions and who closes the board. And what I mean by this is when you're talking and stuff, you're going to ask them, the person who you choose is going to be asking the questions, and stuff like that. And some questions to ask is, am I at the right job? Am I doing well in life? Am I on the right path? And take it as you would any advice from another human being, alive or dead, because after all, the person or the spirit that you're talking to could have been a human that was alive, and just because they're dead doesn't mean that they know more than the living. And I know that could be a little controversial, but not necessarily, so be careful. Don't take everything they say with 100%. Take it with a grain of salt and interpret it how you would like. When you do a Ouija board work, if you start and you calm down, and when you start, and ask, is there any spirit in the room that would like to speak to me? And you do something like that. If they are not, if you do not get anything for 45 minutes, close down the board and do it another evening. However, if you do get a Ouija board, if you do get a spirit to contact you, I highly suggest that you should make it very, very clear to have them only talk to you through the board. And if they try to talk to you any other way, things moving around in the background, hearing hits and bangs, ignore it. And do not communicate with them except through the Ouija board, otherwise it could become chaotic. And try not to use the Ouija board for more than an hour and a half, for it is very emotionally and energy draining for you and the spirit. So try to be mindful of that. And when you say goodbye, say thank you. Say thank you and goodbye. And if they do not move I think it's called a planchette or a planchette. I'm not sure, whatever it's called. I know it looks French. But please comment in the section below of what that is. I love that's the only thing that I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so when you say goodbye, if the spirit does not move the cursor over goodbye, ask them again, say thank you and goodbye. And if they still do not move, very firmly move it with your hands to the goodbye circle and say goodbye and leave, and then end it from there. And it's very important to ground after you are done, and to do anything that you need to do to cleanse yourself after you are done, for it is a very stressful thing to do. So if I missed anything, I will put it in the description below. Again, I will link you to the websites that I use because I think they're very important, and they're from more experienced people than I am. I am just relaying you information and stuff that I've learned. So please go check those out if you are still interested. And I hope this helped you guys. If you have any questions, please ask me, because I do not want anything happening to any of you guys. Again, I am not recommending this for beginners. This is not something to do if you are new to magic, or new to supernatural things, or new to communicating with spirits. Excuse me, don't do it if you are new. And I think that's about it. So until next time, blessed be, and goodbye.